If you like what you see, go ahead and subscribe to see more of our content. And also make sure to ring the bell if you actually want to see our content. Thanks, YouTube. If you really like what you see, you should know that we did this all with a budget of 2 shoelaces and some pocket lint. Just imagine what we can do with an actual budget. By checking out our Patreon, you can find out. As of today, I can add Chris L to this list of our rare tier patrons. On top of that, thank you to all of our other new patrons at different tiers. You're helping support the channel while also getting early access to our videos. You should definitely start with our affiliate link down in the description whenever you make a purchase over at TCG Player. Alright, that's the shameless promotion out of the way. Let's go ahead and get into the video. Hey everyone, it's Matt here, and welcome back to another Commander Guys gameplay video. This week, we have a fun game featuring several decks which are looking to win in roundabout ways. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump straight in to player introductions. Our first player this week is Mark, playing his take on Gavi Warden. His deck focuses on using Gavi's free cycling ability to dig through his deck and find one of several closers, while also generating a substantial amount of tokens that he can use in combat. Mark kept a beautiful Soul Ring, Migratory Route, a pair of Plains, Arid Mesa, Decree of Silence, and Desert of the Mindful. Next up is Michael, bringing back Goreclaw Terror of Qal Sisma. Just like last week, his deck is looking to quickly get out Goreclaw, so he can use its cost reduction to storm off with reduced green spells. Michael kept a Forest, Castle Garenbrig, Emerald Medallion, Whisperer of the Wilds, Natural Order, God Eternal Ronus, and Terastodon. Then comes Grayson, playing Heliod the Suncrowned. This is a life gain oriented deck, which looks to use the plethora of effects which trigger off of life gain, including Heliod's own +1/+1 counters. Grayson kept a pair of Plains, Giver of Runes, Tome of Legends, Blackblade Reforged, Elspeth Knight Errant, and Return to Dust. Finally, we have Alex, playing Golos Tireless Pilgrim. This is a hard ramp deck, which hopes to close out the game with a traditional Scapeshift, Maze's End combo. He kept an island, a pair of forests, Beanstalk Giant, Calmly Heart Expedition, Cultivate, and Soul Herder. Mark starts us off. He plays an Arid Mesa and shortcuts a bit by casting his Soul Ring, while also land cycling Migratory Route. When everything is said and done, he ends up with a Volcanic Island in play, and an island in hand. Michael drops a Forest, and passes off. Grayson drops a Plains, and casts a Giver of Runes. And then Alex closes out round 1 with a Forest. Mark drops an island, and passes. Michael drops an untapped Castle Garenbrig, and casts an Emerald Medallion, before passing as well. Grayson drops a Plains, and casts a Tome of Legends. It enters with a page counter, and then Grayson passes off. Alex drops an island, and casts a Felwar Stone. He follows up with an Elvish Reclaimer, before passing turn. And at Alex's end step, Mark cycles Desert of the Mindful to draw a card. Mark drops a Plains. He casts his commander Gavi before free cycling Rebuild. He creates a 2/2 Pichu Dragon before drawing his card and passing off. Michael drops another Forest. He casts a Whisper of the Wilds and then passes to Grayson. At the start of his turn, Grayson activates Tome of Legends to draw a card. He doesn't draw into a land, however, so he passes off with nothing to do. Alex casts a Calmly Heart Expedition. He drops a Forest for turn, which adds a counter to the expedition as it enters. Alex then enchants his forest with a fertile ground before passing off. Mark free cycles a rooting Moloch and creates another Pichu before drawing a card. He then drops a Plains and casts a Rhystic Study, and as the table collectively groans, Mark passes off. Michael drops another forest. He casts his commander Goreclaw and remembers to pay the extra for Rhystic Study. Michael then passes off. Grayson drops a Plains. He casts Heliod and adds another counter to Tome of Legends, before Mark gets his draw from Rhystic Study. Grayson then passes off. Alex casts a Cultivate and pays the extra for Rhystic Study. He goes to grab a Swamp tapped and a Plains to hand. Calmy Heart gets a counter, and then gets an additional counter as Alex plays the Plains for turn. He then cracks Calmy Heart to go and grab both a forest and a mountain tapped, and passes off as he searches. And at Alex's end step, Mark free cycles Gilded Light to draw a card. Mark drops a mountain and casts a Boros Signet. He follows up with a Dismantling Wave and uses it to blow up Emerald Medallion, Tome of Legends, and Felwar Stone. He then casts Riel the Everwise and moves to combat. He swings 4 at Grayson and 2 at Alex, and then passes turn. Michael drops another forest. He casts a Terastodon, paying the extra, and in response, Mark free cycles Decree of Silence. Mark draws from both the cycle and Riel's trigger, which causes him to create another Pichu, as the Terastodon is countered. Unable to do anything else this turn, Michael passes off. Grayson casts a Rest in Peace. All graveyards are exiled, and Grayson misses another land drop before passing off. Alex casts Golos and pays the extra for Rhystic Study. As Golos enters, Alex goes to grab a land, and during that time, Mark free cycles the Eternal Dragon. Alex finds Maze's End from Golos, as Mark puts a Hallowed Fountain to hand. Alex then drops a forest for turn, and casts Fertile Footsteps, which puts Beanstalk Giant on adventure. As this happens, Mark draws his cards from Riel and Rhystic Study, while also creating a Pichu. Finally, Alex brings in a Plains with Fertile Footsteps, and taps it before passing off. Mark free cycles Forgotten Cave, and draws 2, before creating another Pichu Dragon. He needs to remove Rest in Peace before he can do anything else this game, so he swings a total of 10 damage at Grayson. In main 2, Mark shocks in a Hallowed Fountain, and then passes turn. Michael casts a Green Sun Zenith for 3, paying the extra. He uses it to grab a Reclamation Sage, which blows up Rhystic Study as it enters. Michael then passes off as he shuffles Green Sun Zenith back into his library. Grayson casts Gideon Blackblade and upticks him, targeting his now active Heliod. He then moves to combat and swings Heliod at Mark. In response to attacks, Mark casts a Mystical Tutor. He uses it to put an Enlightened Tutor on top of his library, and then takes 5 damage, before Grayson gains 5 from lifelink, and puts a +1/+1 counter onto Gideon. Grayson then misses another land drop, and passes turn. Alex drops a Boros Guildgate. He casts Soul Herder, and then moves to combat. He hits Gideon for 3, and in main 2 he activates Golos. He hits these 3 cards, and then starts things off by free casting the Brainstorm. He uses it to set up Coiling Oracle, which reveals a Cinderblade as it enters. Alex then casts the Propaganda, and moves to end step. This triggers Soul Herder, which flickers Golos, before putting a +1/+1 counter onto itself. Alex goes to grab Field of the Dead, and as he does so, Mark pulls for 6. He draws 6, and discards a Plains, as Alex creates a 2/2 zombie. Mark then draws from Riel's trigger, and forgets his Pichu token, before moving to his turn. At the start of his turn, Mark drops an island. He casts Perforous God of the Forge, and then free cycles a Desert of the True. He draws a total of 2, and creates another Pichu, which shocks each of his opponents. Mark then engages in before casting a Fluctuator. He moves to combat, and swings 4 at Gideon, while swinging an additional 8 at Grayson. Mark discards down, and passes off. Michael drops a Forest. He casts a Natural Order sacrificing Rex Sage, and goes to grab Woodfall Primus. As Primus enters, it blows up Fluctuator. Finally, Michael casts a Pokedex, and passes turn. Grayson wonders how he managed to miss a land for 4 turns in a deck with 36 of them. He spends his turn casting a Grand Abolisher, and then passes off. Alex untaps, and casts Escape Shift. Before passing priority, he taps every land except Maze's End for mana. And as Escape Shift resolves, he sacrifices a total of 9 lands to tutor up his remaining gates. With all 10 gates on board, Alex activates Maze's End. This unites all the guilds on Ravnica, and means that Alex walks away with a win. So that's gonna do it for this week. Thank you as always to the players for being a part of this game. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, and make sure to subscribe to see more of our content, and ring the bell if you actually want to see our content. For real though, we just hit 3,000 subs, so thank you guys. Don't forget to check us out over on Patreon, and join both Morello and Chris L here if you subscribe at the rare tier or higher, or support us at any level to gain access to our content up to a day early. We also have a TCG Player affiliate link that you can use to support us whenever you make a purchase there. I'll see you all next week with another gameplay video, and as always, thank you for watching.